Hey there, ready to unlock some deeper self-understanding.
Always.
Today we're doing a deep dive into the world of your inner child,
Okay.
especially as it relates to being a highly sensitive person, or HSP.
Right.
We've got excerpts from Dr. Elaine Aron's audiobook,
Okay.
The Highly Sensitive Person.
Yeah,
And let me tell you, it's fascinating stuff.
it really is.
Think of this as a way to trace back
Uh-huh.
how your early caregiving experiences might still be shaping your relationship with your body and emotions today,
Yeah,
even as an adult.
for sure.
Now, even if you're not sure if you're an HSP,
Right.
stick with us because this deep dive gets into some really universal truths
Yeah.
about self-care and emotional patterns that we think you'll find pretty insightful.
Absolutely.
All right, so Dr. Aron starts by highlighting this concept of holding,
Oh, yeah.
which comes from psychologist Ruth Ellen Jesselson.
Okay.
You know, it sounds simple,
Right.
but the implications are huge.
It's about how a caretaker,
Yeah,
usually a parent, provides that sense of safety and security for a baby,
right.
especially when the world can feel so overwhelming to their little nervous systems.
It's interesting because I was reading recently about how, for infants, being held actually regulates their nervous systems.
Yes.
It literally helps them learn to self-soothe and cope with stimulation.
That's exactly it.
Wow.
And the thing is,
Yeah.
when that holding isn't quite there,
Okay.
maybe there's inconsistent care,
Yeah.
or maybe the caregiver themselves is anxious.
Yeah.
It can impact the way a child, especially an HSP, relates to their body and the world around them.
So what happens if that holding isn't adequate?
Mm.
What does that look like?
Dr. Aron talks about how it can lead to overstimulation for the infant,
Okay.
and sometimes even a tendency to disassociate.
Oh, wow.
Imagine being bombarded with sensations and not having the tools to process them.
Yeah,
It's like your system overloads and you just have to shut down to cope.
I can see how that would set the stage for some real challenges later in life.
Absolutely.
Wow.
And Dr. Aron goes on to discuss how the specific styles of caretaking can play a huge role.
Okay.
She focuses on two extremes,
Uh-huh.
overprotective and neglectful.
Okay, let's break those down because I think we've all experienced some version of these,
Right.
even if it wasn't to the extreme.
Yeah.
So, overprotective caretaking.
Mm-hmm.
What are we talking about there?
Imagine a child whose every move is monitored.
Oh, yeah.
They're constantly being told to be careful.
I know those parents.
They're rarely allowed to explore on their own.
I swear they sanitize their kids' hands every 5 seconds.
Right.
Yeah.
And while that might come from a place of love,
Yeah.
it can actually teach the child that the world is a dangerous place
Right.
and that their own instincts aren't to be trusted.
So they're constantly in a state of anxiety,
Yeah.
looking to others for reassurance instead of learning to trust their gut.
Exactly. Now, on the other end of the spectrum, we have neglectful caretaking.
Okay.
And this isn't always about outright abuse.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's more subtle.
Like what?
Imagine a child whose sensitivity is consistently dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
Their needs are overlooked.
Okay.
Maybe their emotions are even minimized or ridiculed.
Ouch. Yeah, that would be tough.
Right.
Especially for an HSP who already feels things so deeply.
Right.
Wow.
And what happens is
Yeah.
these kids can start to believe that their needs aren't important.
Oh, okay.
So they learn to suppress them, push themselves too hard,
Yeah.
ignore their own limits.
So in both scenarios, whether it's overprotective or neglectful,
Right.
the HSP is being robbed of the chance to develop a healthy relationship with their own needs and feelings.
Exactly.
Wow.
And I think that's why Dr. Aron brings up this really interesting concept.
Okay.
And this is where it starts to get really practical.
Okay.
The two extremes of self-care, being in too much
Okay.
and being out too much.
Okay. I'm intrigued. I feel like I've definitely experienced both of these.
Ah.
Let's start with being in too much.
Okay.
Because that resonates with me big time.
Well, it's that tendency to constantly retreat from the world, to avoid anything that might be overstimulating.
Oh, yeah.
Think about our culture today where busyness is almost like a badge of honor
Yeah.
and rest is seen as laziness.
Uh-huh.
For an HSP, it can be even harder to resist that pull towards isolation,
Oh, tell me about it.
right?
My idea of a perfect weekend is curling up with a good book and avoiding all human contact.
Sure.
But sometimes I wonder if I'm taking it too far.
Yeah.
Is there such a thing as too much self-care?
There definitely can be. While rest and downtime are absolutely crucial for HSPs,
Yeah.
when it becomes excessive, it can start to backfire.
Okay.
Dr. Aron uses this hilarious anecdote.
Yeah.
It's about this guy who retreats to a cave for a silent meditation retreat.
Okay.
And he ends up getting completely overwhelmed by the sound of dripping water.
Oh, that's so me. It's like you create this perfect little cocoon of peace and quiet. And then your senses become hyper-aware of every tiny little detail.
Yes.
And it's just as overwhelming as being out in the world.
Exactly.
Wow.
And sometimes that need to control our environment can be a way of avoiding the bigger issues at play.
Okay, so what about the other extreme? Being out too much.
Right.
I feel like I'm guilty of that one too.
That's when we ignore our need for rest and recovery and push ourselves beyond our limits.
Right.
For HSPs, who are already processing so much information and stimulation, this can be a recipe for burnout.
Yeah, it's that push through it mentality that society loves to glorify.
Right.
But I've learned the hard way that it's not sustainable.
Yeah.
At least not for me.
Yeah.
What are some signs that we might be out too much?
Dr. Aron lists a few things to watch out for.
Okay.
Difficulty sleeping. Pushing yourself too hard, even when you're exhausted.
Yeah.
Maybe relying on substances to cope with the overwhelm.
Okay.
And, ironically, spending excessive time alone because you're too drained to connect with others.
So it's like we're swinging between these two extremes.
Yeah.
Either completely withdrawing from the world or pushing ourselves to the point of exhaustion.
Yeah.
It's no wonder so many HSPs struggle with self-care.
Right.
Right.
But the good news is,
Yeah.
once we start to understand these patterns, we can start to make more conscious choices.
Okay.
And that brings us to the next key point.
Okay.
How to reparent your inner child.
Yes.
Especially as an HSP.
Okay. I'm all ears.
Yeah.
Let's talk about how we can break free from these old patterns and start taking care of ourselves in a way that truly honors our sensitivity.
Yeah. It's like we're giving ourselves the love and support that we may not have received consistently as children.
I love that analogy.
Yeah.
So much of this work is about unlearning those old messages and replacing them with something kinder, more compassionate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that starts with recognizing that our inner child, that sensitive part of ourselves, needs rest.
Yeah.
But it's not just about sleep.
Okay.
Although that is crucial for HSPs.
Right.
Dr. Aron talks about different types of rest. Sleep, play, downtime, and even transcendence.
Transcendence.
Right.
That's interesting.
It's about finding those activities that connect you to something bigger than yourself.
Okay.
For some people, that might be spirituality. For others, it might be nature or art or music.
I can totally see that.
Yeah.
For me, spending time in nature is like hitting the reset button on my nervous system.
Right.
But I'm curious, what does Dr. Aron say about sleep specifically? Because I feel like I've tried all the sleep hygiene tips out there.
Sure.
And I still struggle with insomnia sometimes.
She actually has a whole section on the unique sleep needs of HSPs.
Okay.
And some of it might surprise you.
Really?
For example, she talks about how HSPs tend to do worse than others when working night shifts or mixed shifts.
Interesting.
And they also recover more slowly from jet lag.
Wait, really? So it's not just me being a delicate flower?
Not at all.
Okay.
It's about understanding that your nervous system is wired differently. And it needs more time to adjust to changes in routine.
Oh, wow.
And she even challenges some of the common sleep advice out there.
Okay.
Like sticking to a rigid sleep schedule no matter what.
Okay.
For HSPs, that can actually backfire because we're so sensitive to changes in our internal environment.
Okay, so what's the alternative?
Right.
How do we figure out what works for us?
It's about tuning into your body's natural rhythms.
Okay.
And honoring those individual needs.
Yeah.
Maybe you need a longer wind-down period before bed. Maybe you're more sensitive to light or sound. Maybe you need a nap in the afternoon to recharge.
It's like we have to become our own sleep detective.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And along with rest, Dr. Aron emphasizes the importance of play.
Oh, yeah.
Now,
Play.
when we think about play, we often think about kids.
Right.
But it's just as important for adults.
Yeah.
Especially HSPs.
You know, I have to admit, I struggle with this one.
Oh, okay.
I tend to take myself pretty seriously.
Sure.
Where does play even fit into adulthood?
Think about it this way.
Okay.
Play is anything that brings you joy, that allows you to let go of control and just be in the moment.
Okay.
It can be dancing, singing, gardening, whatever lights you up.
I guess I do love to cook. When I'm in the kitchen experimenting with new recipes,
Yeah.
I lose all track of time.
See? That's play.
Yeah.
And it's essential for our well-being.
Right.
Reduces stress, boosts creativity,
Yeah.
and helps us connect with our inner child.
Okay, so we've got rest, play, downtime.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any other strategies for reparenting our inner child?
One of the most crucial
Okay.
and often the most challenging for HSPs
Yeah.
is setting boundaries.
Oh, yeah, boundaries.
Mhm.
That word makes me cringe a little bit.
I get it.
It feels so confrontational.
HSPs are often people pleasers.
Yeah.
We want to make everyone happy.
Right.
And we hate conflict.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Okay.
Without boundaries,
Yeah.
we end up giving away our energy, our time, our resources until we're completely depleted.
And then we're no good to anyone,
Exactly.
least of all ourselves.
Boundaries are about protecting your energy,
Okay.
your well-being, your sanity.
So how do we get better at setting boundaries?
Right.
Because it feels so awkward and uncomfortable.
Sure.
Especially if we're not used to it.
It takes practice, for sure.
Yeah.
But it starts with recognizing your own needs and limits.
Okay.
What are the things that drain your energy?
Mm-hmm.
What are the situations that make you feel resentful or taken advantage of?
Okay, so once we know our triggers, what then?
Then it's about communicating those boundaries clearly and assertively.
Okay.
And this doesn't have to be a big, dramatic confrontation.
Right.
Sometimes it's as simple as saying no to an invitation or asking for some quiet time alone.
But what if people get upset
Yeah.
or try to guilt us into doing things we don't want to do?
That's where it gets tricky.
Yeah.
But remember, you have the right to protect your energy.
Okay.
And sometimes that means saying no,
Yeah.
even if it disappoints someone.
Yeah.
It's not selfish, it's self-care.
Right.
And in the long run,
Yeah.
it will make you a better friend, partner, parent,
Yeah.
whatever roles you have in your life.
I like that.
Yeah.
So we're reparenting our inner child
Exactly.
by giving ourselves the rest, play, downtime, and boundaries that we need to thrive. It's like we're creating a safe and nurturing environment for that sensitive part of ourselves to blossom.
Exactly.
Wow.
And as we do this work,
Yeah.
we start to heal those old wounds
Yeah.
and we build a more solid foundation for navigating the world, especially the social world.
Speaking of the social world,
Yeah.
Dr. Aron debunks this myth that HSPs are inherently shy.
Right.
I'm so glad she addresses this because I think it's a huge misconception
Yeah.
that needs to be cleared up.
Really is.
Shyness and sensitivity are often conflated,
Uh-huh.
but they're not the same thing.
Exactly.
Shyness is a learned response, often rooted in fear of judgment or rejection.
Right.
Sensitivity, on the other hand, is an innate trait that makes us more attuned to subtleties in our environment, including the emotional nuances of social interactions.
For sure.
So just because an HSP might feel overwhelmed in a crowded party doesn't mean they're afraid of people.
It's often about overarousal, not fear.
Okay.
And Dr. Aron talks about this fascinating study at Stanford University
Okay.
where they took a group of shy women
Yeah.
and put them in a situation that triggered physical symptoms of anxiety, like a racing heart and sweaty palms.
Okay, that sounds like my worst nightmare.
Right. But here's the interesting part.
Okay.
When these women were told that their arousal was due to external factors,
Okay.
like loud noise, they actually behaved just as confidently as the non-shy women in the study.
Wait, so just by changing their perception of their physical sensations, they are able to shift their behavior?
Exactly.
Wow.
It shows how powerful our thoughts and beliefs can be.
Yeah.
And for HSPs, it's so important to understand that overarousal doesn't always equal fear or anxiety.
Right.
Sometimes it's just our system processing a lot of information, which is completely normal,
Yeah.
given our sensitive nature.
So how do we deal with that overarousal in social situations? Because even if we know it's not always fear, it can still feel pretty intense.
Well, first and foremost, it's about recognizing it for what it is.
Yeah.
Overarousal, not necessarily fear or anxiety.
Right.
And then it's about having a toolbox of strategies to manage that overstimulation.
Okay, give me some tools. What goes in the HSP social survival kit?
Well, taking breaks is huge. If you know you're going to be in a stimulating environment,
Yeah.
plan for some downtime. Maybe step outside for some fresh air.
Okay.
Find a quiet corner to decompress. Or even excuse yourself to the restroom for a few minutes of solitude.
I've definitely used that restroom excuse a few times. And it's like my secret weapon.
And don't underestimate the power of deep breathing.
Oh, yeah.
It sounds so simple.
Yeah.
But it can really help regulate your nervous system and bring you back to a sense of calm.
What about connecting with other HSPs?
That can be a game changer. Finding your tribe.
Yeah.
People who really get it
Right.
can make you feel seen and understood in a way that's so validating.
Yes.
And it can also be a great source of support and encouragement.
I love that.
Yeah.
And sometimes just explaining the HSP trait to others can be helpful.
Absolutely.
It's not about making excuses. It's about educating people about your needs and helping them understand how to best interact with you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Dr. Aron also talks about this concept of developing a persona.
Oh, right.
Which can be a really useful tool for navigating social situations that feel overwhelming.
Okay, remind me what a persona is again.
Think of it like a social mask, a role you step into that helps you feel more comfortable and confident, even when you're feeling internally overstimulated.
Okay.
It's not about pretending to be someone you're not.
Right.
It's about creating a buffer zone that allows you to engage with the world without feeling completely drained.
So it's like having a script to follow in certain social situations.
Right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But I can see how it could be tricky
to
use a persona without feeling inauthentic.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
The key is to make sure your persona aligns with your values and feels authentic to you.
Right.
It's not about putting on a fake smile and pretending to be someone you're not.
Right.
It's about finding ways to manage your energy so you can show up in a way that feels genuine.
So it's like finding that sweet spot between protecting your energy and allowing yourself to be vulnerable and connect with others.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And along with persona, Dr. Aron emphasizes the importance of boundaries.
Oh.
Which we talked about earlier. In the context of reparenting our inner child.
Right. Boundaries.
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how crucial they are for HSPs.
Yes.
In all areas of life, not just social situations.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
They're about recognizing your limits.
Right.
And communicating those limits clearly and respectfully to others.
So we've got breaks, deep breathing, connecting with other HSPs, explaining the trait, developing a persona, and setting boundaries. Wow, that's a lot of tools.
It is.
It sounds like navigating the social world as an HSP is an ongoing process of self-discovery and experimentation.
It is.
Right.
And it's not always easy.
Yeah.
But as we learn to understand and honor our sensitivity, we can start to create a social life that feels more nourishing and less depleting.
I love that. Okay, so before we move on, I want to touch on something Dr. Aron mentions about the unique challenges and strengths that HSPs face in different stages of life.
Yes.
She talks about how sensitive children, especially boys, might be drawn to solitary play, which can be misinterpreted as shyness or even social awkwardness.
It's like they're being judged for needing that space to process their experiences, which is so natural for HSPs. We take in so much information. We need time to digest it all.
And I imagine that can be especially tough for boys who are often socialized to be more extroverted and less emotionally expressive.
Absolutely.
Right.
And this is where having supportive parents and caregivers can make a huge difference.
Totally.
If a child's sensitivity is validated and celebrated rather than shamed or dismissed, it can make a world of difference in their self-esteem and their ability to navigate social situations.
Right. It's about teaching them that their sensitivity is a gift, not a burden.
Exactly.
And then when they get to school, the environment can be a real challenge for HSPs.
Right.
Think about it.
Yeah.
The constant noise, the crowds, the pressure to perform. It's a recipe for sensory overload.
It is.
Oh, I remember those days. I used to come home from school feeling completely drained. It was like I had to spend hours alone in my room just to recharge.
And that's completely normal for HSPs.
Yeah.
We process information more deeply.
Right.
So it takes more energy for us to navigate those stimulating environments.
So what can parents and teachers do to create a more supportive environment for HSPs in school?
Communication is key.
Okay.
It's about talking to teachers about a child's sensitivity, explaining their needs, and working together to create strategies for managing overstimulation.
Okay.
Maybe that means allowing for breaks, providing quiet spaces, or even adjusting the learning environment to make it less overwhelming.
I love that.
Right.
It's about working with the child's sensitivity rather than trying to force them to conform to a one-size-fits-all approach.
Exactly.
And then there's the issue of giftedness.
Right.
Dr. Aron talks about how many HSPs are labeled as gifted, which can be both a blessing and a curse.
It can.
I can see that.
Yeah.
On the one hand, it can be validating to have your unique abilities recognized.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, it can create a lot of pressure to perform and live up to those expectations.
Right.
Especially for HSPs, who are already prone to perfectionism and overthinking. That pressure can be really intense.
It can be.
Yeah.
It's important for parents and educators to focus on nurturing a child's love of learning.
Okay.
And their intrinsic motivation. Yeah. Rather than just focusing on achievements and accolades. Yeah.
So it's about celebrating the journey, not just the destination.
And as HSPs move into adolescence, the challenges can become even more complex.
Oh, I bet.
Think about all the hormonal changes, the social pressures, the search for identity.
Yeah.
It's a lot to handle for anyone, but especially for sensitive individuals who experience everything more intensely.
Right. It's like everything is amplified during those teenage years.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Dr. Aron points out that some HSPs might try to cope with this overwhelm by engaging in self-destructive behaviors.
Okay.
Like substance abuse or social isolation.
It's like they're trying to numb the intensity of their experience
or
avoid situations that feel too overwhelming.
And this is where having open and honest conversations about mental health is so crucial.
Yes.
HSPs need to know that they're not alone in their struggles and that there are healthy ways to cope with those difficult emotions.
Absolutely.
It's about creating a culture of support and understanding, where sensitivity is seen as a strength, not a weakness.
And it's important to recognize that those challenges don't magically disappear when we become adults.
Right.
We carry those early experiences with us.
Yeah.
And they continue to shape our relationships with ourselves and the world.
Yes.
So it's an ongoing process of self-discovery and growth, even into adulthood. And I love that Dr. Aron gives us concrete tools to navigate those challenges and embrace our sensitivity as the gift that it is.
It really is a gift.
Yeah.
And the more we understand and honor our sensitive nature, the more we can tap into its power and create a life that feels truly authentic and fulfilling.
It's like we're finally giving ourselves permission to be who we truly are without apology.
Exactly.
And I think that's what makes Dr. Aron's work so powerful. It's not about trying to fix HSPs or make us more like non-HSPs.
Right.
It's about helping us understand and embrace our unique wiring so we can thrive in a world that doesn't always get us.
For sure.
You know, one of the things that really struck me in the book was Dr. Aron's point about how HSPs can actually be incredibly socially gifted.
Oh, absolutely.
It's just that our way of connecting might look a little different from the extroverted ideal that our culture tends to promote.
That's such an important point.
Yeah.
HSPs often excel in one-on-one interactions where they can really tune in to the other person, listen deeply, and create a sense of intimacy and connection. We're wired for those heart-to-heart conversations.
It's like we're masters of deep connection, which is so valuable in a world that often feels superficial and disconnected.
Exactly.
But I think a lot of HSPs, myself included, have internalized the message that there's something wrong with us for not being the life of the party or the one who always knows what to say in a crowd.
It's that cultural bias towards extroversion that can make HSPs feel like we're somehow lacking. But the truth is, our ability to connect deeply is a superpower.
Yes.
It allows us to build strong, meaningful relationships, offer genuine support and empathy, and create a sense of belonging for ourselves and others.
You know, I've noticed that I tend to gravitate towards smaller, more intimate gatherings. I feel much more at ease in those settings where I can have deeper conversations and really connect with people on a soul level.
And that's perfectly okay.
Yeah.
Dr. Aron actually encourages HSPs to be selective about their social engagements.
Okay.
It's not about isolating ourselves from the world.
Right.
It's about being mindful of our energy and choosing to spend time in environments that feel nourishing rather than depleting.
So it's about honoring our needs.
Exactly.
And creating a social life that feels aligned with our sensitive nature.
Maybe that means saying no to that crowded party and instead opting for a quiet dinner with a close friend. Or maybe it means leaving a social gathering early if you're feeling overwhelmed.
It's about giving ourselves permission to do what feels right for us, even if it goes against social norms or expectations.
Absolutely.
And, sometimes just explaining the HSP trait to others can be helpful.
Yes.
It's not about making excuses or asking for special treatment.
Right.
It's about helping people understand your needs and how to best interact with you.
Exactly.
Right? It's like saying, hey, I'm wired a little differently, and that's okay. I might need a little more downtime than you. Or I might not be the most talkative person in a group setting. But that doesn't mean I'm not enjoying myself. Or that I don't value your company.
Exactly.
And when we can communicate our needs clearly and assertively, it creates more space for authentic connection.
It does.
So to recap, we've learned that shyness and sensitivity are not the same thing.
Right.
That overarousal doesn't always equal fear. And that HSPs can actually be incredibly socially gifted.
Yes.
We've talked about practical strategies for managing overstimulation and creating a social life that feels nourishing rather than depleting.
Absolutely.
And most importantly, we've learned that it's okay to be who we are.
Yes.
To embrace our sensitivity as a strength and to create a life that honors our unique needs and desires.
This has been such an insightful deep dive.
It has.
And I'm feeling inspired to continue exploring these ideas.
Me too.
And applying them to my own life.
Same here.
I hope our listeners are feeling the same way.
I hope so too.
And remember, if you're ever feeling lost or overwhelmed, there's a whole community of HSPs out there who get it.
Oh, yeah.
You're not alone on this journey.
Beautifully said.
Thank you.
And for all you sensitive souls out there,
keep
shining your light and sharing your gifts with the world.
Absolutely.
Until next time, take care of yourselves and each other.